your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway sitting in with us. We'll be joined by Mike DeCourcy, the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox. Lots to get to. Kevin Brockway, Chase Briscoe. We're going to start with some unusual news. Chase Briscoe, NASCAR news. Kids from Mitchell, Indiana, right 25 minutes south of right where we do the show here. Going to be moving up to NASCAR Cup Series racing next year for Tony Stewart. That's a big deal, man.
Congrats to him. And I'm sure it'll be interesting to see, NASCAR was one of the first sports to restart without fans and had a really good summer.
Well, you would think that running 190 miles an hour would make it pretty tough for coronavirus to catch up to you, but it caught a couple of those guys. It caught Jimmy Johnson and a few other guys. But, another big news, Trey Kaufman, IU's biggest target on the basketball court. A decision date is coming. October 30th. That's next Friday. It's the day before Halloween. And that day's coming. That is a day that a lot of, not just Hoosier fans, Kevin, but Purdue fans, now you can say Virginia fans somewhat. North Carolina, they're on the outside. But I'll be completely honest with you. To me, this is a two-horse race, and it is between Virginia and Indiana.
I think that's what's going to be interesting is Tony Bennett and his history of player development versus Archie Miller, staying home, which obviously, we're still in the midst of a pandemic. So you got to think that could possibly play a factor as well. And, in talking to Trey over the summer, another point he brought up is the fact that, the familiarity he has with other players in the state. Now, there's some rumors about him and Christian Lander, whether they get along, yada, yada. But I think for the most part, you're talking about a lot of guys within the state that he's played with, that he's comfortable with in different all-star events and different AU events. You've got Logan Duncombe coming here. So I think that there are certainly some pluses from that regard for a guy. And, when we watched him over the summer, boy, did he look really skilled, really polished, and athletic. I mean, he's got a lot going, this would be a huge get to Archie because I think he's a guy that could step in right away and really contribute.
To me, it's another must get for Archie. He has to land Trey Kaufman. You can't let this guy get away. His development. I think Logan Duncombe has had a part to do with his development over the summer because, man, Logan Duncombe his game really came around full force this summer, and Trey was right there with him. So, back to back, those guys going at each other. But, man, it's been a good year. But you're right. I mean, I think Archie has to land Trey Kaufman personally from an optics standpoint, a recruiting standpoint, but from a talent standpoint, too, because I think he's a 3-year player. I think he will stay to get his degree unless something crazy. And, and his second year, all of a sudden, he's a top 5 projected pick in the NBA draft, but I don't see that happening. I think he could be a solid 3-year player. He's really smart. Man, he would just be good to have on your roster for so many different reasons, in addition to his talent. You can tell this kid is going to be a leader. He's going to be a kid that you want on your team, that you want your players to be around. So he's very desirable for so many reasons, Kevin, other than on that basketball court.
Well, what impressed me in watching him over the summer was his wing skills, his ability to play on the wing for a guy his size. I mean, his shooting, his ball handling. He's a really versatile kind of guy that's a combo forward. He can mix it up inside. He can block shots. We saw that. But he's also got some really nice perimeter skills, which I think, makes him coveted in terms of, being a versatile guy on the next level because, the game has changed so much. It's become positionless. But, to have a guy that could fill in, that could play multiple spots, that could guard multiple spots with his talent level, I think speaks a lot to kind of his development, the kind of player he is.
Yeah, and Archie has finally gotten to the point after 4 seasons. He's got his guys on the court. He's got his type of guys, his style of player. Trey Kaufman definitely, well, Trey Kaufman would fit into anybody's style, I think. But again, would fit right into this, not only with his style of play, but they've also gotten this roster now to a manageable point of from the mental side, with all 12 of these guys being on the same page. Talked about this before. That wasn't the case last year or the season before that or the season before that. All 12 guys on this roster have not been on the same page prior to this season, and I think that's where you are now, and Trey Kaufman would be another one of those guys that would be on that same page, which is of uber importance. When you're trying to win, you've got to have everybody heading in the same direction.
Yeah, certainly the buy-in when you have all the guys, and this is what, your 4th year, so it's everyone on your roster are guys that you've recruited. So I think there's something to be said from that, not just from the, standpoint of style of play, but also just from, you're recruiting a certain makeup of kid that is probably, fits into your style, that believes in your coaching staff. And I think you probably have that now. Maybe that you didn't have in the prior years. And I think you've also got a roster that can play a lot of different ways. You could still play big like you did last year, but you can play a little smaller too. You could probably play Lander and, Finney and Durham together in a 3-guard starting lineup. Or, you can play Jerome Hunter as that kind of like swingman type guy. So you got a lot of different options. Depending on how Galloway and Leal and Geronimo develop, you could probably sprinkle them in too. So I think you've got different, combinations that you can kind of go with, to match up with different teams, to guard different teams, rather than just go with that kind of conventional lineup that they went with last year.
Absolutely. And we'll look forward to that. We're not that far away from basketball as we get closer and closer as we get closer to November. Football is here, man. This Saturday, Big Ten gets underway. Indiana takes on Penn State at home at 3:30 on Fox Sports 1. Big national TV audience. A great opportunity for the Hoosiers, Kevin. They are in position to do what we've seen happen already this college football season, and some great upsets, some fun. This season has been fun. It's been crazy because of COVID, but it has been fun because these games have been a little wacky, and it's been awesome to see. And I think that continues into the Big Ten. And is Indiana poised and ready to make a move even higher in the Big Ten East? Running back Ernie Brown is out for them, so that's going to hurt Penn State.
Yeah. So the last time, Indiana beat a top 10 opponent, you have to go back to 1987, right? The Bill Mallory years. Earl Bruce on the sidelines.
Darkest day in Ohio State football history.
31-10. They beat number 9 Ohio State on that date. So you're talking 33 years. What were you doing in 1987?
I was at that game.
Playing hacky sack or whatever.
I was at that game. Yes,
wearing your stonewashed jeans and your members.
Oh, you know it. Rolled up. Well, they didn't the pants rolled up at the bottoms. Then I'm trying to remember all that. Guns N' Roses blaring on the CD player.
That tells you what an opportunity you have in front of you. For Indiana football. I mean, this is another chance. You had it in the bowl game in the Gator Bowl against Tennessee, a big traditional SEC opponent.
Last year against Penn State.
You're right there, and you couldn't finish. But here you've got this other opportunity to start the season, in front of a FS1 audience. And I mean, Tom Allen said, he was pretty frank. He said, "Hey, look, one of our goals this year is to beat a ranked team. They haven't done it since Michigan State in 2016. So here's your chance. Here's your chance to really get on the map and make a statement. And if you win this game, then maybe you sneak into the top 25 and you kind of build from there."
Absolutely. I mean, and like I mentioned in a second, Journey Brown, who was a big part of their game last year against Indiana, he rushed for over 100 yards in that game, and he's not playing. He's out for an undisclosed ailment. He's being treated for something that he may end up missing the entire 2020 season, not just this game. So you've got him out for this game. You got Purdue's Jeff Brom out as well, but that has no bearing on this game, of course. We'll talk about that later. But not having this running back. But, of course, this is Penn State. They've got 46 different running backs that they can run in there. But when you lose a good one, you still lose a good one.
Yeah, Noah Kane is a pretty good back. So
Noah Kane.
They've got some guys behind them that are good, that are decent, and they've got that offensive line too. And that was, one of the questions I asked Tom Allen is just that, physicality. Are you ready to match up with some of these big boys yet? Because that was, if you remember last year's game, it was about a 16, 17 play drive where they just ground out the clock. And, you had a chance to get the ball back and you couldn't do it on third and fourth down. They eventually, got that touchdown. They made it a 2-score game. And then, Justice had to kick the late field goal and they had to go for the onside kick and they didn't get it. But it was really that long drive in the fourth quarter where they, kind of finished that game and sealed that game out. And for Indiana, you've probably got a little more depth on the defensive line this year where you can rotate guys in and out and keep guys a little bit fresher, with the addition of Jovan Swan, with, DeMarge Lewis as a freshman, you might be able to plug in there. You've got Theo and DeMarcus Elliott. You're too deep with two quality guys at defensive tackle. So I think they've got some pieces there on the defensive line where it's a little bit deeper. And if, you can rotate guys in and out, you get them to play 30, 40 snaps a game. You might be more fresh in the fourth quarter to make those stops against the run, to be able to get the ball back in that situation in a tight game.
Yeah, speaking of depth, the depth chart came out yesterday, and no surprises on there for me that I saw. I mean, we pretty much knew everything. Anything jump out off that for you?
Well, they were talking a little bit about the freshmen, and obviously, you've got Javon Swinton on there, wide receiver. You got Bryson Bonds, the safety, the second team, which is a pretty big accomplishment for a true freshman to get on the depth chart, and A.J. Barner as well at tight end. So I think that shows that, recruiting still continues to be strong. But it's also a pretty experienced depth chart when you look at the number of juniors and seniors. And it just kind of shows a little bit the depth that Tom Allen is starting to build. And it's starting to get a little older, too, which is a positive sign.
Absolutely. And so I keep talking about Indiana having this excellent chance. We talk about that. But I also say it's time for Indiana to take this opportunity, I think, and move the program up. It's easy to say that because beating a Penn State, I don't care even how good you are. That's a tough ask. I mean, beating a good program is tough, but it's not only tough because they have good talent, but when you have a program that is just annually good, that's built in mentally. And we talk about that being a problem for Indiana players of not being good annually, of that being built in mentally. And it's just breaking that cycle. And Tom Allen has been trying to do that, and they're on the edge. But how getting through that mental part has just been almost an impossibility for this program.
Yeah, and it comes down to not making mistakes. Last year, if you remember, Wap Fillier with the fumble punt early in that game, that was a mistake. You have to really play flawless football when you're at a talent disadvantage, the way a program like Indiana is against Penn State. But I also think that there's a physical element to it, too. There's blocking, there's tackling. It's a matter of, being bigger and more athletic. And I think Tom has done a good job of that, too. I mean, if you look at this roster, you look at the size and you look at the speed of this roster, it compares favorably now to some of those teams in the Big Ten, even some of the powers. I think what you're trying to get to is a depth piece to it as well. Just trying to get, Penn State has two or three big fast guys at 2 or 3 deep at every position, whereas Indiana is maybe at 1 or 2. I think that's kind of the big difference.
Absolutely. Hey, we got to hit a break. The great Mike DeCourcy joins us next as we've got plenty to talk about. We'll be right back with Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway.
Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
No matter where you are in life, here's a question to consider. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you navigate where you want to go? An Ameriprise advisor will take the time to truly understand what's important to you and help you prepare for whatever life brings, both the expected and the unexpected, by providing personalized advice based on your goals and needs, and regular reviews along with digital tools to help you stay on track. With an Ameriprise advisor, you can feel more confident, connected, and in control of your financial life. Call Dennis Schneider, Heath Schneider, or Nick Davis with Schneider & Associates, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Call 877-827-1404. That's 877-827-1404. See Dennis Schneider at 236 North Elm Street in Henderson and Heath Schneider or Nick Davis at 20 East Campground Road in Evansville. Ameriprise Financial Services, LLC. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway sitting in, of course, and we're joined by the great Mike DeCourcy from Sporting News, Big Ten, Fox. Who else can we get you on, Mike?
And Indiana Sports Beat,
Indiana
right?
Sports Beat, Indiana Sports Beat. There you go, the man of all talents. How was your weekend?
Steelers won. It's never a bad weekend when the Steelers win. That's
win.
The way you have to look at it. Absolutely.
That was a big win for them. They left kind of no doubt in that game.
No, they went out there pretty serious about making sure that the Browns remembered that they had visited Pittsburgh, and I think they succeeded in their mission.
Our friend Kevin Brockway, he's a Jets fan. It's like that's like being a Cubs fan 20 years ago.
I think it's worse because at least in the NFL, everybody has this basically the same shot. So if you mess it up, people know you messed it up because the salary cap and the revenue distribution and all that. But it's amazing how poorly they've performed and how the decisions they've made. I mean, like hiring Adam Gase. Based on exactly what? I mean, what was it that he did that said, "Oh, we got to have that guy"? Some of the things that happen in professional sports are absolutely mysterious, and that would certainly qualify as one.
Don't get
not only that,
started.
Mike, but he's a completely unlikable guy. Like he's not a guy as a fan you can really warm up to. I mean, he's just very. You watch him, in his press conferences, he's very curt. He's very smug, and he, constantly throws players under the bus. And it's just not in a good situation right now. It's very, very, very sad, very somber. But perhaps we're tanking for Trevor. I don't know. Some people are on with that. You know what I mean? Trying to get that number 1 pick and keep Gage for the whole season so we can go 0-15 and 0. But if I can survive through Rich Kotite, I think I can survive through anything.
Rich Kotite. Mike, this weekend we got Big Ten football returning. Everyone's waiting for that, looking forward to that. And not only that, man, when it comes, it just comes with a big wave. It's not Indiana playing Eastern Illinois. You got Indiana and Penn State and all these good games. And speaking of that game, Journey Brown for the Nittany Lions, not going to be in there. A big part of that win for them last year against Indiana. Indiana has them at home. We've talked about this big win, this opportunity, and I think that they get it done this year, actually.
Wow. That's a pretty bold prediction. You're right about Journey Brown. Penn State last year had Miles Sanders, who's now with the Eagles, a very fine rookie in the NFL. And so Journey was sort of the complimentary back, and this was going to be his opportunity, his occasion to shine, to take over. And so it's a shame when that happens to a young person in that sort of circumstance where everything's set up for them to be successful. And Journey's a very talented player and would certainly have been successful this fall. But I do think you're right about IU football. They certainly have been on the right track for the last 2-3 years, going in the right direction. And this is an occasion, this is an opportunity for them to get that done. And it's going to be very interesting if you look around sports, if you look around college football. It's really purely now about you and your teammates and your coaches and those who have to substitute for you. It's really not any longer in any venue about the people in the stands. They've always had an influence on the game. Now it's purely about you. And so the Hoosiers will go in there, and some years they might have had a bunch of Penn State fans kind of muting the crowd a little bit. Now this is all purely about what they can do to the Nittany Lions, and I think you're right. I think they are on the track where they can make this happen. There's a very good opportunity for them to win a football game. Kevin?
Yeah, and not just a football game, but against a team that's preseason top 10, which they haven't done since 1987. I think this has an opportunity, Mike, to be that kind of statement win. For as good a season as they had last year, they were 8-5, but they were 0-4 against ranked teams, and they were right there against Tennessee, a big time SEC program in the Gator Bowl in front of a national audience, and couldn't feel the onside kick, and the rug was pulled under him in that game. But this is another opportunity, it's another chance, kind of on a national stage, FS1 audience, to show that Indiana football has arrived. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think absolutely. As I recall that game, it's been a while since obviously it's been 10 months since I watched that game, but I recall that being one of those occasions where they got a little conservative with the lead. And you see that sometimes in football. Teams thinking if we don't beat ourselves here, then we can probably run them out of time. And I think that they got a little conservative in that circumstance. Now it is another big step for them to take to start to beat the absolute best teams, or the teams that are regarded as the absolute best. And in when you have that opportunity, you have to seize it. You're probably not going to back into it. I think part of the reason for that, I think psychologically the players understand sometimes when they can sort of feel when the coaches get a little cautious, and that makes them a little cautious, and then things start to go wrong. So you have to be bold if you get the opportunity this time. And
absolutely.
I think that could be a difference maker on Saturday if they put themselves in that position.
And the funny thing is, for lack of sounding like a complete homer, I don't think it stops at Penn State. We talk about all these teams that have, no matter who it is, you look at different conferences, even like a Vanderbilt or whomever, every 6-7 years, they're able to rise up and just beat somebody that they absolutely shouldn't have beaten. Indiana has not done that, and they've been better than a lot of those teams, which is funny. But I think that this year, not only does it happen once, I think it happens twice. Indiana is poised to do what they need to do. They have the talent. I think they can sweep the state of Michigan. That state is poised. Michigan State has got a new coach, and it's time to beat Michigan. Now, is that crazy? Based it off Indiana's track record? Of course, absolutely crazy. But I truly believe that it is there if you look at it on paper.
I think one thing to remember, though, in a season that only lasts 8 games plus 1, that every victory is precious, regardless of who it's against. And again, remember, every victory that is achieved this year will be achieved against a high major opponent, against a Big Ten conference opponent. There won't be any Austin Peays in this group. They're going to have to beat a high major talent in every game that they win. And so while it will be nice for the Hoosiers if they can take out a Penn State or a Michigan or as Jim predicts, both. But every victory that they do achieve will be significant this year, and I think that's something that IU football fans should recognize and appreciate.
Absolutely. Another conference note that popped up: the 8 former Iowa players that have sued. Iowa's just not having a good time of it. It's like they just can't get past the problems that they had earlier on this season. Yeah,
it has been interesting to watch how Iowa's offseason developed. It's been a very tumultuous offseason there in Iowa City with the circumstance around their coaching staff and the acrimony between some players, some former players, and the coaching staff. It's been a very difficult time in Iowa City, and it'll be interesting to see what the next step Iowa takes in that regard.
Kevin?
They did get rid of the strength coach. I know that, and he was highly regarded. He's one of the highest paid strength coaches in the country.
Been there for like 29 years or something, hadn't he?
And there were concerns about racial bias regarding the way he handled athletes. So it's a very like you said, it's going to be Kirk Ferentz. It's going to be an interesting season for him. They start with Purdue on Saturday, and of course, Purdue has its own issues, sadly, with Jeff Brom testing positive for COVID. How do you see that, Mike, impacting the game? I guess his brother's going to be on the sidelines.
Yeah, I think that it's never good to not have your head coach with you. It certainly leads to a bit of uncertainty among the players. But when you have a circumstance that it's not a sudden absence, the players know going into the week that he won't be there. They can prepare to be ready for that. They know who to look to for the ultimate answer in this circumstance. So I think it's a little bit less problematic than if it had been something that had developed on Thursday or Friday of this week. And that's certainly, that eventuality, not in Purdue's case, but in other cases, is not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, that's something that could happen to any Big Ten program, any program across the country that's active right now. It certainly could have happened at any time previously, but it's more a concern now that a positive test could pop up for a head coach or someone like that at the last minute. So Purdue at least has the opportunity to plan for that. And I know Purdue is excited about having Rondell Moore back. I did a piece about that last week about the players who opted in. And I really admire what those guys are doing. So I'm excited to see him out there. And I'm really excited that Big Ten football is starting. I was always a believer, and I wrote this all the way back in early August, the day before the Big Ten announced it wasn't going to play. I was always a believer that the players are best off, basically with having a competition to prepare for, that will keep them sort of their eyes focused on not putting themselves into circumstances where they can be infected. And it just isn't to say you can avoid every single one, but you can limit your the occasions where it might happen. And I spoke to Wyatt Davis, offensive guard for for the Buckeyes, Sean Wade, their cornerback, and they were both very, very strong on the idea that they understand they've got 8 weeks plus the one. They need to win every game. They need to play every game. And so they're going to do everything in their power, which is what we're wanting the football players to do everything in their power to avoid circumstances where they can be infected. We don't want them to get ill. We don't want them to get the after effects. We don't want them to get ill, or we don't want them to get the virus and maybe be asymptomatic and spread it. And I think playing football is the best way to make that happen.
I agree. As a matter of fact, I think they are the absolute safest that they could be as humans in that bubble that they have. They're safer than we are. I'm not kidding. I truly believe that they are safer than we are because they are really going. I know IU because of being the familiarity there and all the protocols they put in place. Man, they are. I truly believe that they are doing everything that they possibly can to keep them safe. And people out here in the general public are not doing that. So I'm happy for them because I think they've got a lot better chance to get through without getting this than we do.
Yeah, I think that's true. And they're being tested daily. Sean Wade told me they wake him up every day to do the test. He said that's one thing he's had to get used to is getting woken up to do the test. And they do it. And then they take other precautions as well. And I think that the players' commitment to completing the season, and there's a lot out there for them. That's a very compact season. There's the reward of that 9th game that I think is going to be pretty cool, even for those who don't qualify for the championship game. There's the possibility of bowl games. So there's a lot for them to play for, and a lot for them to stay out of harm's way for, and to restrict harm's way to blocking and tackling.
Mike, I'm actually working on a story this week about, can the Big Ten pull this off, which is, 9 games in 9 weeks without any postponements, which is what we've seen in other conferences throughout the country. And they don't seem to have the wiggle room. What's your opinion? Do you think with the daily testing, I mean, we've already seen Braum get caught, but it not spread to the rest of the team, that they can pull this off and that there will be no postponements? Or do you think it's inevitable that you'll see some games get cast by the wayside?
I think the thing that they have to their advantage is the daily testing. That's something that some of the teams that have had postponements have not done. Some of them, not all. I think there may have been some that have daily testing that have still wound up with postponements. I think that, but the fact that they are ramped up fully with daily testing for weeks in advance. I mean, when I talked to Sean and he talked about being woken up for those tests, that was the first week of October, and they weren't scheduled to play a game for another 3 weeks. And so that being in that being in that environment and being in that circumstance and knowing every day, okay, I don't have it today, and all 100 people, 150 people, however many people are within that group, having the same concept and all of them being driven to that same goal. Now it's going to be, if the Buckeyes continue to win, I mean, obviously they have to start with Nebraska and then they play Penn State. And if as they continue to win, the urgency for them to stay, and please don't, just to use it, stay free of the virus, rather than use any adjective. The urgency to stay free of the virus increases. It maybe decreases for teams that aren't successful. And if some of them are on Ohio State's schedule by week 6 or week 7 or week 8, then maybe that's where the problem comes in.
I laugh because that could, I can see, I can't imagine them doing that, but that could become problematic for teams that are really good and trying to finish their season, and the end of your season is against a bottom ledger team. But
I mean, let me just use an example, Jim. I mean, you're on a team that's 1-6, say, and it's week 8, and I don't know what. No, it's not going to be them because they play Michigan week 8. But let's say you're on a team that's 1-5 and it's week 7.
Zero motivation.
Yeah, and so and we're not saying they're going to do anything bad, but hey, I haven't seen my girlfriend in like a month and a half because I've been trying to get this done. But now I'm going to go see her because maybe I go see her because I haven't seen her in a month and I'm 1-6 anyway, or 1-5 anyway. So that's the little thing that could happen, and that could spark 12 cases on a team. And then all of a sudden that team's out for a week. These are the things that could happen to perhaps keep the season from being played in its totality, every game that's scheduled to be played. Again, it isn't anything untoward. It's just college life. But I do think that the odds have always been better that you would keep the number of football players or athletes down if they have a season to play for, and therefore the idea of engaging in regular college social life where there is the possibility of spread would be less attractive if you have a season to prepare for and to compete in than it is if you don't. And then you're like, well, why won't I go out and have a drink with my friends? Or why wouldn't I go out on a date with my girlfriend if I don't have a game this weekend?
I agree. Could not agree more. What's coming up next for you? That you have out that readers need to see? I
am doing a piece about strikeouts in baseball, principally strikeouts in Major League Baseball as the World Series begins today. We'll probably print this tomorrow or Thursday. But the idea that the ball not being put into play and what that means to the appeal of the game. And, the way the game has gone in the last 10, 12 years or so, strikeouts have basically doubled since I was a teenager, 20-year-old, something like that, watching baseball, covering a little bit of it. They've really escalated, and it's had an impact on how the game is played, and also, I think, on how the game is consumed by spectators.
Make sure you check that out. Is that coming out on the Sporting News, Mike?
It'll be on sportingnews.com. Like I said, I would say probably by Thursday, and certainly when we publish it, it will be. I will tweet it out at TSN Mike on Twitter.
We'll make sure we get that sent out as well. Looking forward to it. Thank you as always, Mike. We look forward to visiting with you each and every week.
Thanks, Jim and Kevin. Always a pleasure.
The great Michael DeCourcy coming to you from the Sporting News, Big Ten, and Fox, joining us here as he does each week. Very fortunate to have him on. We got to take a quick break, Kevin. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
No matter where you are in life, here's a question to consider. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you navigate where you want to go? An Ameriprise advisor will take the time to truly understand what's important to you and help you prepare for whatever life brings, both the expected and the unexpected, by providing personalized advice based on your goals and needs. and regular reviews along with digital tools to help you stay on track. With an Ameriprise advisor, you can feel more confident, connected, and in control of your financial life. Call Dennis Schneider, Heath Schneider, or Nick Davis with Schneider & Associates, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Call 877-827-1404. That's 877-827-1404. See Dennis Schneider at 236 North Elm Street in Henderson and Heath Schneider or Nick Davis at 20 East Campground Road in Evansville. Ameriprise Financial Services, LLC. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Oh, we didn't get to a part, but what was it? Here Comes L.A. Yeah, good song back there. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Joined now by our good friend, Chronic Hoosier, joining us here. Chronic, how's it going, brother? How was vacation?
It was a good time. It was great to get away for a little bit, had a little respite here before the season begins, and come back, and, man, it's game week, so couldn't time it any better.
It is that, man. Big Ten football returning. Can't wait. I'm all jacked up. I've been watching these college games. It's been fun. And we had Mike DeCourcy on earlier. We were talking to him. The games have been – it's 2020, so of course there's craziness. But the games have been a little crazy. I mean, we've seen some serious upsets. I mentioned LSU. They lost twice out of the first 3 weeks, defending national champion. We've seen all kinds of teams going down, and I think that will continue into Big Ten play.
No, it's up until this point, it's kind of felt like when you were a kid and you were grounded, you had to watch all your friends outside playing while you were under lockdown. So it's finally time to be released from those constraints. But I totally agree. We talked about this earlier when they decided they were going to proceed with the season. That this was going to be bonkers on a lot of different levels. I feel like it's certainly going to put a lot of emphasis on continuity of rosters and coaching staffs, teams that are able to build on last season rather than having to, replace a lot of pieces and put a lot of guys in new roles. It's going to put a whole lot of emphasis on teams' ability to focus and prepare. And I think the leadership as you go down the roster goes a whole long way, in getting teams ready for this and focused. And I said it was Zach in our preseason pod. I want to say it again over and over because we've seen it play out several times now. Special teams is always kind of the kicker. I think it's going to be even more important this season, which is going to be, one of my big question marks watching IU. How do they perform in that facet of the game? Because as we've already seen so far, and I imagine we will continue to, there's all sorts of crazy things that can happen in a special teams game that, can take an otherwise decided contest and throw it back into doubt. So it's all the questions about to be answered soon enough, though, and I can't wait to get to that point.
Well, I got one for you because I've been talking about this for a while because I knew it was coming, but it officially came out. There will be no tailgating at IU football games, which makes complete sense. There's no fans, so they don't want people on site. But, Mr. Bloomington, what are your recommendations for the fans to recreate that moment? You can't do it on campus, but what should Hoosier Nation do in lieu of that to support the Hoosier football program? Because I tell you, I think big things are coming this year.
I've always looked at tailgates as an opportunity to just to get together with friends and family. That's what it's always been. It's always been something you did, before you went into the game. You could hang out afterwards, go out at halftime. I don't see any major hindrance to continuing to do that, except now I think you can just take it to a whole nother level because instead of having to pack everything up and, take it to the lot, you got everything you need right there at home, So I definitely think it's a situation that's going to allow people to still get together, to still congregate, probably want to do it, especially the larger the group, in an outdoor environment, which is, kind of the scene that we're already accustomed to with tailgating. But, I totally recommend just step your game up a notch. So, instead of just doing a couple of pieces, go full bore, have your friends, have your family over, move that TV outside. We got a Chromecast for just that purpose, so that whenever we go back to my mom and dad's place, we can get the whole family out there on the patio. We got a 55-inch television that we carry out there, and just stream all the media from outside. So, I think it's going to be weird, no doubt. But I think it's something that's still going to give fans the opportunity to get together and watch the Hoosiers, man.
Absolutely. Something, a little note, kind of a cool thing, Kevin. Kevin Brockway's with us as well. I saw that Peyton Ramsey, not only is he going to be a week one starter for Northwestern, but he's going to be a captain for them as well. So obviously that not a surprise there. A kid was a leader, but it's very unusual where you can have someone leave your team that would have been a leader and go to another team and become a leader for them. Kevin? Yeah,
no question. I mean, that was that's impressive, and we all know what Peyton did, certainly in the Purdue game. Leading them to that victory, the bucket, getting the bucket back, scoring that touchdown in overtime to clinch it. Showed a lot of guts throughout that season. Took a lot of hits too, but stayed healthy. Chronic, I want to know from you. What's your go-to tailgate food? I mean, what do you make? What's the specialty dish for tailgating for Indiana football games for you?
Good question.
I missed all that. We're kind of getting the audio got real fuzzy on me. I couldn't make you out. I'm sorry.
He was asking what's your go-to food for tailgating? Because
easy.
What's the Hoosier football go-to tailgating food?
Yeah, first and foremost, whiskey is a food, so that's a given.
I thought he was going to say beer, but he went with whiskey instead.
Beer is also a food, but whiskey is my food of choice. No, I love pork. I think there's just so many things you can do with it, whether, you're cooking bacon for the early tailgates, which everybody loves. I mean, it's not like that ever gets unused. We've done, I've roasted pork loins. I love pulled pork. I just think it's easy, something you can throw in the crock pot, doesn't take a whole lot of work to prep, something that carries really easy. It's in its own container. You just warm it up once you get there. I always bring a multitude of sauces. That way you can spice it up to taste. And then, you can make sandwiches. You can do nachos. I mean, you can throw 100 different ways at it. And, it's one of the most Indiana foods there is, I suppose. So I'm a big fan of the pork for the tailgates.
You know what? If you're having a tailgate at your house, let us know. I want to know. We'll let people know what's going on and how they're having fun. So let us know how you're doing that. You can either text us at the text line 812-269-6367, or there's 1,000 ways to reach us, Twitter and all that stuff. So, but I'd be curious to find out how fans are dealing with it this year. So send that in to us. Be interesting. What are you going to be doing, Chronic, for the game?
I'm going to be hanging with my family. We're heading to the farm, and we're going to get everybody together. We're going to move that big TV outside, and we're going to let the kids play and spend some time with the parents and my brothers and their kids. And we're going to do what we would normally do, except we're just going to be doing it from the farm this year. But that's, to me, that's what this has always been about. I'm going to miss seeing all the friends. That's the one thing I do love about tailgating on site is, you can spread yourself out and go see lots of different people kind of in one big space. But at the end of the day, first and foremost, it's always, for me at least, my dad played ball at IU, played football and rugby here. That stadium, that team has always been associated with family. So we are very much looking forward to keeping that tradition going, and we're very much looking forward to seeing just how much this team can build on the momentum from last season. And 9-1 Indiana may not be in the cards this year, but I certainly think that there are good things in store for them. So looking forward to all of that.
Me too. Hey, and being a Southern Indiana boy like myself, I know you're familiar with this is kind of different from what we normally talk about, but NASCAR, Chase Briscoe from Mitchell going to the Cup to drive for Tony Stewart Haas, who's from Columbus, Indiana. Very cool. Just a cool combination there. But that's big time stuff, man.
Oh, that's incredibly huge. And not only that, he's going to get to drive the 14 car, which is just, for an Indiana boy, to make his way up to that level is just absolutely unbelievable. We always talk about watching kids come up from the rec leagues in basketball and play their way up to the big time. Chase has been out there working all the dirt tracks his entire life to get to this point. If it had 4 tires and a steering wheel, he could usually get it to victory lane. So to see him make it to the Cup, series is unbelievable, but even more so, just that whole next level. Following the footsteps of Tony Stewart, to see an Indiana boy work his way up from dirt to the bigger circuits and then finally make his way to the big show. That's what it's all about, man. That's why everybody shows up to the track on Friday nights when there's not a whole lot else left to do. And I always love to see one of those dreams come true for somebody that we've watched since they were a kid.
Absolutely. Also, and we can talk about this next week because we're still a week away from, but it was announced that Trey Kaufman's decision on where he will attend college is coming up on October 30th. So that's a week from this Friday. Everyone's been waiting for that. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect that to be coming that soon, but that'll be out of the way.
Now, I'll tell you what, and we talked about this a couple shows ago, I think, with the list and everything like that. And we were all in agreement. Todd probably lead the charge on that one. The pomp and the circumstance doesn't necessarily settle the best with a lot of the old school IU fans, but you got to give the kid credit. He's kept a lid on it pretty well as far as running the process, for him and getting to the point where he felt comfortable making the decision. Not been a whole lot of leaks coming out, other than, who's expressed interest and just generally where he's at in the process. But I always respect it, too, once these guys make their minds up, and especially now when there's basically going to be no live periods between now and the end of this calendar year. So what's the point in dragging it out? What more do you have to learn? The visits aren't going to be guided or official under NC2A guidelines. So you pretty much got all the information in hand, absent personnel issues at the various schools he's considering. So I'm all for it. I've always thought it was a wise idea, just to put it behind you, assuming that you're comfortable with what's been put on your plate and what your options are, and get those distractions out of the way, and then go make the most out of your senior season, man, because at the end of the day, that's going to be one of those things you only get one crack at. And Lord knows 2020 has been weird enough. Just make the most out of it.
And one last note, because I meant to do this before, but since you're on, might as well hit up the birthday for the Hoosiers this week. It includes Jim Thomas on the 19th, which is today or yesterday? Yesterday. And then Damon Bailey on the 21st. But Bob Knight and Romeo Langford, same day on October 25th coming up. So Bob Knight's birthday coming up. So
that's my neighbor, Bob Knight.
Oh, there you go.
Still weird to say.
Chronic still with us there? I think we lost him, but I think we did. But Chronic Hoosier joining us here this week, as he does each week. We appreciate him as always. But kind of cool. Yeah, Bob Knight's birthday coming up here on the October 25th. But
Kevin, the coach turns 80. I mean, it's a milestone birthday. Obviously, an octogenarian, which is hard to believe. When you think of Coach Knight, when you think of a guy that, 20, 30 years ago was still coaching well into his 60s when he finished his career at Texas Tech.
And successfully doing so down there, as at that time he was became the all-time winningest coach in college basketball before he stepped away, and now he's been supplanted since then. But looking forward to that, and looking forward to this weekend. We got Tom Allen, as a matter of fact, also. Talked to him yesterday and about putting together a game plan. And Will, if you've got that piece, let's go ahead and run that from Coach Tom Allen. He does not have that clip. Okay, so we don't have that clip. So we won't run that. But he talked about putting in a game plan. The thing that's going to be unique about this, Kevin, is both teams have new offensive coordinators. Indiana's is a rookie offensive coordinator. Penn State's came over from Minnesota, where they were always doing high-flying things already. So a little bit of an advantage there. But it's kind of an advantage for Indiana because Penn State doesn't have any tape on Nick Sheridan, so to speak.
Yeah, and, Nick Sheridan, too, has a little continuity with Indiana in terms of, being the quarterback's coach and the tight ends coach. And, he'll be calling games from the box. And I kind of asked him, hey, look, a little nerves going into this week. What's this week going to be like for you? And I think he's, got some anticipation of, getting this opportunity to be able to call plays. He's going to be collaborative. He's going to talk to a lot of his position coaches. And we'll see what kind of game plan comes out of it. And we'll see how similar he actually was to Kalen DeBoer, who obviously had, tremendous success last season. Is Mike Hart in his ear to run the ball a little more? I think that's going to be interesting to see. Is there going to be a little more balanced, or are you going to keep those wide receiver screens that kind of were pretty much almost like running plays, but they weren't necessarily handoffs. They were more screens to guys like David Ellis and Whop Phillier. I'll be curious to see the shape of the offense and how it looks in week one as compared to last season.
Oh, absolutely. Since they have everything, I mean, basically everybody back, all the important pieces, the skill positions are back. So there shouldn't be a lot of rust there, and they should have an advantage more so than other teams, especially offensively. So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully it works out for the best. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, and does Samson James get more carries? How do you balance that out? Or is Stevie Scott still your bell cow guy? Because last year it seemed like until he got hurt, Stevie Scott was kind of your bell cow guy. How do you mix David Ellis in the running game? I'll be curious about that as well. And how do you get the ball to different receivers? How do they handle Whop Phillier seeing more double teams this year? Does Freifogel get the ball more? Miles Marshall, does he step up? Does this freshman Javon Swinton, who we've been hearing about all camp, does he get some targets as well? The tight ends, Peyton Hendershot. That's going to be, to me, that's, DeBoer used the tight end screen a lot last year with Hendershot. Do they keep that in the offense? There's so many things that I'll be curious to see as to how the offense looks under Sheridan.
We'll certainly get a chance to find out because we're just days away. Looking forward to it, man. Appreciate you sitting in with you as you always do. We get to do it again next week, but at least next week we'll be talking about what happened over the weekend in Big Ten football. So looking forward to it. Anything you got coming out people need to know about?
Yeah, I'm working on, I mentioned before with Mike about, can the Big Ten pull this off? Also going to do a deeper dive just kind of into IU's defense and the importance of defense as well, heading into, this season with the lack of tackling practice.
Make sure you find that out. Follow Kevin, giving Kevin and Brockway a follow as well. I'm Jim Coyle. So I appreciate you guys joining us. We appreciate Mike DeCourcy, as always, for joining us and look forward to tomorrow. Dustin Schutte be sitting in, and we'll go from there. But until then, I appreciate everybody. Go out, do something nice for somebody. Make sure you wear your mask. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.